All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up to this talk, which will be about me having experimented with AI for the last couple of months and trying to adopt it into my design process. I'm a designer at Variant's Oslo office. My name is Ole Petter, and for the last 2 years working there, I've been working across strategy, service, and UX design. So hopefully there's some interesting takeaways for all of you showing up here today. All right. The whole story began 4 months ago when a startup customer came into our Oslo office. And with him, he brought an AI-generated app. This one on the screen. And within 1 hour of prompting in this generative AI tool, which is called UIZard, he had made these wireframes, very proud of himself, making his vision into something more tangible. And we as designers, we noticed that this was generated. Straight away, we saw that this wasn't really like, it wasn't a good user experience, and the content didn't really have any coherence. But luckily, we had a 2-day workshop to tear everything apart, like get what's really the value of this app. And after 2 days, we thought we had the core of the concept, and we presented it back to the customer. Felt pretty smart. We were deciding on an MVP, which we wanted to test with some pilot customers. So we thought we did the right thing. The customer didn't agree. They pointed towards the app and said that we want more of this. With all of these great features and all of these visions we have for like this grand plan. And so this was kind of like a result of them having been anchored to the feeling of being able to prototype this within 1 hour. And what we noticed was how our customers had raised their expectations from using Gen AI. And yeah. And what worried me even further was like after having this customer meeting, which was quite uncomfortable, I went down to my hairdresser, which went on and on about the newest R1 model from DeepSeek and how he used Gen AI to make a new website for his shop. And so it felt like AI was literally everywhere. And maybe you guys have felt the feeling before of AI being kind of this mysterious digital creature surrounding us in our design process, not knowing what to do with it. And I think it's built on an AI hype with a FOMO driving it and a promise of a technology that drops daily news that's groundbreaking and a rumor that once it reaches its potential, it's going to replace us all. Yeah, dark stuff. So I was left in an existential crisis. Should I go back home taking farming lessons from my dad? Or should I let curiosity beat anxiety and ask myself the question of how should I integrate AI into my process? I choose the last one, at least for now. And the story began, or my journey began, and since my hairdresser knew, I thought I'd also brush up on my skills or knowledge about where AI was right now and where it was headed. And it's predicted that AI will rise in like 3 waves. And the first one is said to increase our effectivity in the work we do by mainly enhancing our work through ChatGPT, through processes we already are familiar with. And the second one is that it's going to raise our quality with specialized tools that are AI native. And thirdly, it's automation, where we work side by side with these AI agents, giving input to our processes and increasing both of effectivity and quality. So I thought I'd bring some examples of how this is already happening today between both product and business. And so the first one is how we do things today. Picture a worker sitting in Word, typing something for a presentation, a meeting, whatever, but the written text they're actually, or what they're writing is actually generated from using GPT. Another example is how Adobe Firefly lets visual designers have AI directly into their workflow. And they're now able to use Photoshop in a way that they can just prompt it with place a bird on this branch, and it's there. And so they're now manipulating photos in a whole different way that they did before. But it's not just across products that this is happening, it's also in business. And Not Milk is a business where they fed AI with the kind of molecular description of cow milk and made it make a plant-based version of it with the same flavor and the same consistency. And they also did marketing, generating different concepts, and tried it with social media to see what gave the most engagement, and then they produced those actual products. And the last one is Showrunner, which is your Netflix, but with generated content. So imagine you're watching your favorite series, but it's got to have an end. Now consumers can actually generate further content, create their fan fiction, whatever, to further deep dive into the content. At least that's the vision for the final product. And so after having done my research, I was getting a story from social media and big AI to scale myself. That's what I felt I've been told. And they were telling me this story of like having 8 brains and 10 digital arms to do more and more and more without having to do anything myself. I could just delegate it to AI. But they were saying that, and it was kind of a cliche to me. And I tried it. I had like generated presentations, I'd summarized workshops with it, and I'd even read a lot of applications from people searching for a job at our place, and they were all bad. Very bad. They've probably been better off doing it themselves. And at the same time, AI has this big promise of replacing us, so why should I start delegating it my tasks now? So I wasn't really left motivated to continue my journey. Fortunately, there's research saying something else, a far more enthusiastic narrative. And it's done by Harvard and a business consulting group, where they tasked 758 consultants with 18 knowledge-intensive tasks. So something you might find yourself doing as a consultant or a designer every day. And what they did was divide between AI-compatible tasks and incompatible tasks. And where the AI was good, it gave them a 25% increase of quality in their outputs and 12% increase of their effectivity. So check, AI has a big potential when we integrate it the correct way. And this was just tasks done by people who had minimal training in using AI from before. However, there was the other side of the research, where they used AI for the AI-incompatible tasks. And behind the promise of this productivity and quality gain, there was a huge error rate if you used AI for the non-compatible tasks. It was up to 20%, and this was mainly due to an over-reliance on AI. So you're kind of like unsharpening yourself, and they call this kind of a sleeping at the wheel effect. So it shows the potential risk of not or using AI for the wrong tasks and letting risk into your process. And this was also one of the main takeaways from the report, that it's really hard to differentiate between the AI-compatible tasks and the ones who are not. So I saw myself as having this to-do list with very blurry lines of what I should use AI for and not, which sparked the idea of an anti-to-do list, a safe list of tasks that I knew I could delegate AI to actually gain some quality and effectivity for my work. And here's the current state of my list. And I was thinking I should go into some different roles I do or have during my work as a strategic service and UX designer, and also a junior employee. And the first one is some Imagineering we've been done, where we've been writing some scenarios for some strategic work for Variant. And Here, you can see me generating text from for the scenario to use. So I gave it a role and a task, and then fed it with a large context window to make a draft of the text I was going to produce. And once I had the text I wanted to go with, I asked it to make some metaphors where I could choose the one I liked the most. And then I knew the next step in my AI process, which was going to be to generate photos. So I made it write a prompt for the photo generating machine as well. And so, check, I had some text for a draft, and I had a prompt to go into Visual Electric, which is a tool similar to Midjourney, but it looks way more like Figma. And that's why I use it, because it takes the time I use to go from 0 to hero, like kind of the time to proficiency, because it's very similar to what I worked with before. And that's the thing with AI, right? It shouldn't be necessary to have to be prompting all the time, writing new prompts, but instead use tools that you're familiar with to get that productivity gain that we're actually looking for. So here's the result, some text and an image, perfectly ready for a PDF to send somewhere, be stored in someone's shelf and never be seen again, right? Or we could let AI elevate the content we actually use. We could use a tool like Lovable and prompt it to make a website, to make the content have further lifespan by having up-to-date information and making it more engaging by doing it interactive. So that's the first takeaway for AI. I think it can expand what we deliver, making it more of a multimedia experience instead of just a presentation like always. All right, so back to the list, and I want to go into the service design part. And I'm not very bullish about kind of like synthetic users, where you tell the AI to role-play your users, but however, I do like the idea of having some personas give me some critique to make me have more perspectives from the user base I'm actually working with. So I can validate the first drafts of concepts and stuff I'm working on. So here you can see I'm using something that's called a preset, where I've already fed it with some personas from my current project. And I'm asking it to kind of validate this concept I have. And then it plays back, based on 10 different personas, some different views. And I've told it to vary the personas across technical proficiency and age to get differing perspectives. And then, at the end, it gives me a combined response, which I can read through, and maybe it sparks some idea into my creative process. Further on, there's something service designers does a lot, and it's getting to new domains and having to learn a lot very quickly. And there's also there's often very technical documentation of what you have to learn and stuff. Not exciting. What if there was a way to make it more exciting? So that's when we introduced the Google product, Notebook LM. It's a tool where you can feed it with different sources like PDFs and YouTube links. And you can make it mind maps, for example, to give you sort of this map of your whole domain and what you're supposed to learn. So now I have some kind of subjects that I want to elaborate on. I can ask it to elaborate, and I can even make it generate a conversation. So now there's two hosts talking about the subject, and I can use the interactive mode to actually make it, to ask some questions and start probing it with what's actually relevant to me, hence earning a personalized learning experience. And I can do this while driving, so maybe I get to more just because I can do this while commuting. And I want to also talk a bit about the UX designer process, which is mainly what I'm doing day to day. And I'm not going to talk about generating UI sketches, because I feel like that's my expertise. I don't want to let AI into that process. But However, I've seen a huge upside it making it more capable of actually coding. So now I'm not just pushing pixels, but I'm pushing code also. And one example of it is where I wanted to test some different components for a UI pattern I was making. So I actually told Claude to give me examples of different UI patterns. I chose one, gave it the stack we're actually using in our project, and then I made it prototype that component. And I feel like this is something I'm doing to make me, I don't know, step aside from focusing on each component and the aesthetics of it, and now I'm focusing more on like the whole experience of the interaction instead. So it kind of changes the way I design actually. Now you can see me playing with the UI pattern. It actually generated real time. And it's also allowed me to actually maintain my design token system. So I'm working in a startup where if I can ask this coding generative tool, which is called Cursor, to actually write the design tokens in or according to Tailwind's version 4, which is what we're using, then I can save off a lot of time, both from doing it, but also from not having to discuss this in meetings, and instead focus on more important subjects than design tokens. And also, no more colors in production, which I haven't seen before. And lastly, there's this meeting summarizing tool, which is called Granola. It takes a transcript from meetings, so it doesn't store anything else than just plain text that it's recorded. And I can then summarize it under headings. And now it's going to generate takeaways based on the headings I actually remember us talking about in the meeting and filling in the blanks. And this is great because I can now, during casual talks with product owners or strategic people, pick up insights which I can feed into my whole research for products. So that's a small list of experiments I've been doing, and it's a start, but it wasn't supposed to be something revolutionary, because I was going to be careful with what I actually delegated to AI. So the takeaways here is, when you're working with AI, be mindful of what's your work and what's AI work, because if you give it tasks that it's not compatible with, it's going to actually make your job and output worse. And secondly, reduce the overhead of collaboration with AI by using the same workflows again and again, not having to prompt the AI every time you're using it. Thirdly, I think it has a huge potential of actually broadening your design skill set. So I would now say I'm kind of like a UX design engineer, where I also work with code and write my own code. And service designers might have to automate processes. Instead of placing new roles for employees, they might work with AI agents that are directly integrated into our processes. And lastly, as a strategic designer, I feel more like a storyteller and an analyst also. So I've seen that it kind of like broadens my design responsibility, which is also supported by the fact that AI pushes more of your skills from 0 to 80% than from 80 to 100%. Yeah, lastly, experiment. Make your own anti-to-do list. And just want to briefly bring you back to this, because this is the email we got back from our customer, where we made a report after the first initial meeting, where they were very happy with us adding some visual elements and also summarizing it in a neat report, where we, of course, used AI to do it. So the takeaway is that your customer doesn't care if you use AI or not. They don't feel the pride in your design process from having you done it yourself. And so I have my anti-to-do list, and if you want an update when I get to do the website where I shared with you guys, you can sign up for an email notification here. And that's it. Thanks for being an awesome crowd.